What's up, design family, and welcome to another episode of FittDesign TV. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the top financial mistakes to avoid when starting your apparel brand. Welcome to FittDesign TV. On this channel, we'll explore what it takes to make it as an activewear fashion brand, whilst providing tips, tricks, and actionable steps towards starting your own product line. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to start your own brand or just someone interested in fitness fashion, there's something for you here. Everyone knows that money is always a major factor in any business venture. We have limited amounts of it, and we want to do amazing things with what resources we do have. So this video is going to help you guys avoid simple mistakes or simple pitfalls that you may not see in your business, so that way you can get the most out of the funding that you have allocated to your business venture. I'll run you guys through them point by point and elaborate on each point and give my opinion on how you can avoid this and how you can make the most out of what you have. Number one is always, most people go into creating apparel without any technical information on their garment. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see, is people coming to us saying, I've spent so much money creating prototypes and samples of my sketch for an idea or my customized piece, but the factory isn't able to get down or to nail down my idea. That's because you're not speaking their language. In order to communicate something effectively, you need to be speaking the same wavelength that the person you're communicating to is going to understand. And when it comes to creating customized apparel, it's always with a tech pack. You need to be able to have a professionally done tech pack, whether you do it yourself or you get a freelancer or you get a company to help you out with it. It's always important to have a tech pack and to be able to speak the technical language of the factory. Not doing this may result in you not spending money or time or effort into creating a tech pack, but you will spend time, money, and effort down the line when you're going back and forth with a factory, trying to communicate minute changes in your sketch or whatever it is that you have used to identify with them what you're looking for, and you're just going to end up spending a ton of time and money creating numerous samples and not getting the result you need. So spend the time and spend the investment into creating a professionally done tech pack to accurately convey your information. You will spend a lot less money on that tech pack than the numerous of samples that you're going to spend trying to get this design done correctly. Number two is, most people when starting out don't allocate their budget correctly for all of the extras that may come with starting a customized apparel brand. And there are a lot of extras. You need to do your research ahead of time to understand what it means to launch a product. You don't only have the cost of the product itself, the actual unit cost. You have things like any sampling fees that you may have. Like we said in the point before, if you have too many samples, those costs can quickly rack up. You may have some setup charges from your supplier, especially if you're doing kind of lower run manufacturing. You may have some kind of dye setup cost. If you're customizing your colors, they're going to charge you a dye cost. If you're not hitting a certain minimum quantity, they may do a surcharge to compensate for that. Sometimes that won't be clearly outlined, but that may just end up showing up in the price that they're presenting to you, and you're paying more for something that you should be paying less for. So that's also how certain costs can rack up. You also have to spend time and money on the setup fees for your logos. Sometimes if you have customized labels that are heat transfer or other specialized types of application methods, there's going to be a setup charge, and that's because your supplier may have those costs or those fees from their own supplier, so they're just passing on that cost to you. So understanding what those might be and what your tech pack has in it, so that you can accurately account for, or even ask your supplier when you're engaging with them, what's the cost for this, what's the cost for that. These additional charges should not be ignored, and you should do your research. Whether or not they're small dye charges or setup costs, you need to know what it is that may be extra on your design. It's not just the unit price. There's going to be setup charges and fees. Number 3 is not accounting for the other kind of bells and whistles that you may want on your product line. So not only do you have your physical product, but you may also have your trims and accessories, whether it's an awesome hang tag or it's a polymator. Even if none of these things are customized, you're just buying polymators, those extra costs, whether it's 5 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, they are going to eat into your margins. So not doing your deliberation beforehand to know what are the extras that I'm going to be including with my design will definitely reduce your bottom line and will put you in an unhealthy financial position with your product. So find out what are your extras. Am I going to include care labels on my designs? Am I going to include hang tags? What kind of hang tags? Am I doing a more expensive hang tag? Can I get a price quotation on that hang tag? Am I including a polymator? Is it a standard polymator? Is it a customized polymator? All of these things should be accounted for. Do your research ahead of time. Find out what are your extras and account for that in your cost. That takes me on to number 4 is really not knowing your margins well. You need to know your numbers, especially in clothing. It is a competitive business, and charging too little is just as bad as charging too much. You owe it to your business to give it the fuel to survive, which means understanding what your target price is and what customers within your market range are willing to pay, but at the same time be able to streamline your costs and understand what your costs are in terms of their allocation to your product. So you need to take into account maybe your design cost. You need to take into account the actual unit price. Most people just think of the unit price. Oh, this pair of joggers cost me $20 to make or $15 to make. That's my unit cost. But obviously that's not it. There may have been setup charges. There may have been packaging charges. There's going to be a shipping fee. Likewise, there's also going to be customs and duties that you may not have accounted for. So all of these things will play into the cost for your goods. Put that into your cost structure and create a margin that is comfortable, that will give your business the opportunity to thrive. A lot of people try to push down their margins because they want to provide a better value product, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you won't be able to provide that value product for long if you're not giving your business the fuel it needs to survive. You also have to take into account any marketing charges that you may have. What's the cost to acquire a customer? What ads are you running? Are you spending money on SEO? Do you have anyone that you've hired for your company? All of these things will play into your unit cost. Understanding that is very important. It's quite a complex idea, but you can definitely tackle it step by step and build up what costs are associated with it. You also have to bear in mind that when you're starting a apparel-based venture, it's very important when you're starting to have a separate bank account that is not just your personal bank account that you're spending from, but a business bank account where you have a set amount of funds and you know where those funds are going and you're only using that account for your business transactions. Muddying it up between your personal and your business expenses, even if you have no partners and you're sole proprietor, is not a good idea. You quickly lose track of what it is that you're spending your money on. And if you lose track, that's not a good sign. So having a business account will allow you to have a clear idea of what are the costs associated with this venture of yours and will allow you to make sure that you're in a healthy financial standing. Get a business bank account even when you're first starting off. It may cost you $5 a month, it may cost you $20 a year, but it will be worth it, especially in terms of clearly articulating where your money's going. Also, you have to bear in mind that when you have your shipping cost, that could definitely play into the cost of your goods. Most people will just take the shipping that their factory provides them without maybe doing research themselves on what other shipping methods are available. You may not need the DHL express shipping, or you may need it. Sometimes you could do air freight, which is airport to airport. It could be cheaper. You may end up having to go down to the airport yourself and clearing it with customs. A little bit more effort on your side, but it may save you several $100s. It all depends. Doing your research, finding out what is the best shipping method for you and for your company at that time is essential and could potentially save you a lot of money. The final point that I see a lot of people making, and this is something that I've made as well is not accounting for your supplier production variance. What does that mean? A lot of suppliers, when they're quoting you or when they're providing you with a commercial invoice for an order, will account for a production variance in the amount of units that they end up creating for you. Why is that? Because when you place an order, your factory will go ahead and purchase all of the fabric required to make your garments. But as we know, there are things like human error, your fabric sizes may vary slightly, and that will create a variance in the amount of units that they can extract from that specific fabric roll. It may be less, it may be more, and they put that as a contingency in their invoice so that if they end up making a little bit more, they're not just gonna throw that fabric out, they can sell it to you. So usually that variance is around 3 to 5%. And if you're stretching yourself to the limit of your budget, that 5% could leave you in a position that is not favorable to you, and they could force you to purchase the additional 5% because it is within the scope of the invoice that they presented you that you've agreed on, which is also their right. You have to bear in mind that variance, or you have to clearly articulate beforehand how you can find a middle ground between the variance. Usually understanding the kind of budget variance will allow you to make the right decision and to kind of create a contingency within your budget for purchasing those goods that will allow for that variance, whether it's up or down. So hopefully those points have been useful. That's something that you've learned from, guys. These are just a few of the points that come to mind. Obviously there can be a lot more, but these are the biggest financial mistakes or pitfalls that I see within the sportswear or the activewear or even just the customized apparel space. It's a fascinating space, but there are a lot of intricacies because you're dealing with customized apparel and no two situations are alike. So I'm just taking the most common pitfalls and trying to articulate those to you guys so that you can learn a thing or two. If I've missed anything or if there's something that you see as a kind of potential pitfall that I may not have mentioned, please do leave it in the comments below. Always enjoy hearing from you and furthering the conversation. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to FittDesign TV. It's been an absolute pleasure. Stay awesome.